Good morning, everybody. With us here today is North Carolina Senator Vickie Sawyer, Vice Chair of the NCOIL Property and Casualty Insurance Committee and Chair of the North Carolina Senate Transportation Committee. She was also Chair of the NCOIL Special Committee on Natural Disaster Recovery before its sunset in 2020. Senator Sawyer, thank you so much for taking the time.
Hey, thank you so much for having me here, and looking forward to our conversation.
Great. So let's hop right in then. I'm wondering how you first got involved in public service.
Well, I joke around and say kicking and screaming, but legitimately, it was one day I walked in when my oldest child was starting kindergarten, and I knew that I wanted to be involved in her school community. So I went to a parent teacher conference organization thing, and I walked in as a new mom and walked out as the vice president of the organization. And that's really what began my public service. And it's been continuing on now for about 20 years.
Wow, great. So yeah,
Well,
now
wait a minute, 15, I'm sorry, but she's 20, so 15.
so from the PTA to the Senate, what issues have you been most involved with in your time in public service?
Well, a lot of it was initially around school funding, but once I got elected, I really worked on some things that were both child focused, but also transportation. So one of my marquee pieces of legislation that I had great help with was raising the age of child marriage in North Carolina. We were tied with Alaska at age 14. Did not think that was really, it needed to be modernized, let's just say that. So that was a pivotal piece of legislation, I think, that went a long way to help young women in North Carolina. What I'm tackling now mostly as the chair of transportation for North Carolina in the Senate is the modernization of our gas tax funding. So North Carolina, we fund our roads through gas tax. Actually, 50% of that is how we pave our roads. And since everyone's moving in and the gas tax is going down, that's a very big stress on the finances for that department. So I'm working hard to make sure that we can continue to pave our roads in the future.
Yeah. So it sounds like you have your foot in a lot of doors when it comes to a lot of these legislative issues, but professionally, you're also own an insurance agency. I'm interested in how that experience, both working in insurance and as a business owner, kind of impacts your view when it comes to creating insurance-related laws.
Daily. So as someone who has I have a small insurance agency, so I touch the customer when they come through the front door all the way holding their hands through a claim. And I see how regulations and rules and laws actually affect that customer experience all the way through the process. And as an agent, you can also see how it affects the carrier as well. I feel like a middleman, like a conduit of information between the two, the customer and the company. And that's not unlike what I do as a legislature. I am the middleman between, the state government and my constituents. So just the culture of both of those positions lends itself very well. But also, when I was holding the hands of those customers going through claims, there's just things that you come across like, why is it this way? What is causing this trouble, this consternation? Why can this not be better, more mainstreamed? And that is really what drives most of my insurance legislation thoughts and ideas. And one being around roofing, something I haven't gotten finished yet, but definitely are looking at predatory roofers here in North Carolina. Got some opposition, even my own party on this one, but I continue to do that because I have sat with the little old lady who had a roofer come knock on her door, take $15,000 and never see him again and have a terrible, terrible roof and experience. And of course, that's not covered by insurance. So those type of daily customer interactions that I've had for the last years as an insurance agent actually affects everything I do in the legislature.
Interesting. So I'm sure a lot of your customers are also your constituents then, right?
Yes, they absolutely are. Yes. So they get a double dose of me. I'm sure some love it, some don't, but here I am.
So in the legislature, I know different states kind of handle health insurance related issues differently in the sense that some have their own special committees or subcommittees for health related issues. How's it handled in North Carolina?
So North Carolina is kind of like a blend of both. We do have Insurance and Commerce Committee. We also have a health insurance or health committee that deals with both of those. I think if a bill is touching both of those areas, it will bleed through both of those committees. Actually, I would probably like to see a health insurance subcommittee. That's something we do not have, but I think it's something that's really missed.
Great. And so in your practice, do you more so practice just in property and casualty is that line or just any of that? And then health is something you do more on the legislative line?
Yes, absolutely. So we made a business decision a long time ago to do everything except for health insurance. I mean, you just really have to be good and focus on that type of line of insurance when you're delivering that to your customers. And if you're not totally focused on that, then you may be doing them a disservice. So we stick to what we're good at and let those folks who are good in that health insurance space stay there.
Nice, interesting. So after all your legislative service that you've done so far, how do you feel that's made an impact with your family?
Well, it depends on who you ask. So, I mean, it's not always great. So I don't want to say, oh, we're great. This is wonderful. The kids love the fact that they see things on social media that either praises me or hates me. That those type of conversations you have to have all the time. But the trade-off is, when there's things that impact our family, like when my college age daughter is not wanting to go to an in-person class and it got switched over and I want to get her. Those type of things are helpful because you can make those calls and get things to help them personally. It's something you have to work out all the time because it is such a busy position to be a legislator. So for those of you who are out there and you want to, run for office, I still encourage you to do it, but just make sure that you treat your family life as a job just as much as you do the job that the voters give to you.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So moving on, how many years have been involved with NCOIL, and how did you first hear about the organization?
So it's been a few years now, and it is kind of really by luck. We had a group trip going to Nashville, and it was me and another couple, my husband and I, another couple, and just a weekend away. And then I noticed what was going on in Nashville, and then NCOIL popped up, and I'm like, well, insurance legislature, that knocks off two things. So I'll go up early and attend, and then we can have fun in Nashville with our family or with our friends later. So really a lot of it was just chance. And so what happened is my husband wasn't able to come and my friends backed out because of work things. And so it was just me going to Nashville. So I sat, and Tom will laugh at me or laughs at me, but I sat in every committee meeting from the very beginning to the very end because I was just fascinated at the amount of information and the trends that are happening across the United States and the insurance industry, and how the insurance industry touches every facet of your life, both personal and business. And it was just the most wonderfully eye-opening experience. So I'm happy that by chance I got there. So
Sitting through every meeting, I'm sure you must have been tired by the end of it, but I'm sure it was definitely well worth it. How would
yeah.
you describe your overall experience of the organization?
Absolutely wonderful. Again, I enjoy the policy and the business of insurance. It's fascinating to me. It's like a huge puzzle, and it's something that you can't solve by yourself. So when I sit in those rooms, you don't hear me talk a lot. I hardly ever ask questions, but I'm absorbing absolutely everything I can because I want to know what's happening in, say, states like Oregon and California, Nevada. So as if those movements are coming into, say, North Carolina, I kind of have a heads up. It's almost like a canary in the coal mine for me when I hear these industry experts and companies come and talk about things that are happening in Florida. It hasn't happened in North Carolina, but I'm sure it's coming. So for me, it is just the best way to educate myself on trends that are happening across the industry to make sure I make the best policy decisions that I can for my office in North Carolina.
That's great. So yeah, it sounds like you got a lot of key takeaways there that you brought from these
Yeah.
meetings. How do you say that maybe ties into encouraging legislators who are thinking about joining NCOIL to start attending?
Oh gosh, I completely encourage it. I've been in part of several national groups, and I think NCOIL. Well, I know NCOIL is absolutely my favorite. Again, when you see insurance, it's such a complicated matter and issue to come, and most legislators actually may be intimidated by it because it is so big and broad. It is the best way to learn about these businesses and how it affects your state. And again, it's just been a fantastic experience for me.
Great. So we talked about the legislator side, but I guess as a legislator, what do you think the benefits would be for consumer and industry representatives attending NCOIL meetings, getting involved?
Well, this is something that I absolutely think is the most important thing, especially with insurance companies and lobbyists or whoever you are representing the insurance industry. The first time you walk into a legislator's office to, talk about a very complex issue, and you're asking them to help, is not the time to make that friendship, right? I mean, that is when a lobbyist walks into my office, if I don't know them, if I don't have a relationship with them, and it's a very complex issue, it is so easy to say no, right? The easiest way is to say no. It's hard to say yes to insurance stuff. especially as an elected. Quite frankly, insurance companies aren't popular, and it's not popular for me to go out and go, yay, I just, made sure that the insurance industry could, modernize this so it could save it just doesn't work, right? It's easy to get on a campaign stump and sit there and go, I beat up on the insurance companies and I made sure that they, treated people more fairly so I could get reelected. So you're already coming into a legislator's office at a disadvantage. With NCOIL, it is so important because you get to meet state legislators and leaders in each state in that insurance space. So you'll have that, like maybe say flagship of a legislature in your state so that you have that warm relationship, because coming in cold means basically coming in and getting a no.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So throughout your time in the organization, is there any favorite model law or particular issue that you've worked on?
Well, okay, so this is totally self-serving, but when I got there, the representative from Florida, Representative Santiago, had already started a flood resiliency act, and so they kind of tapped me after he wasn't able to serve any longer to finish it up and head the committee. So I'm just going to be self-serving and say that. But also, I've leaned a lot heavily on the TNC Model Act. There's some other things that are going on right now that I'm really excited to see how it works out, so we can bring that home to North Carolina.
Great. Have you ever brought any information or any things in North Carolina, brought those issues back and worked in legislature to get those passed?
Yeah, way too much. I mean, almost every time I come from NCOIL, I'm bringing something back. The most latest one that I'm still continuing to work on is like a ride share agreement for the property auto insurance. North Carolina's laws don't really align to the way it's working there. Not the ride share, excuse me, where you rent your vehicle out of the word or terminology escapes me at this point, but basically you have a car, you want to rent it out, kind of like a VRBO for your personal auto. I think it's a great model. We have a huge military presence in North Carolina, so that's a great second source of income for them. Our just laws and rules don't match up necessarily to the way the national companies do it. So those kind of things I never would have thought about. I learned at NCOIL and I bring it back home.
It's awesome. So now we're seeing more and more that Congress is extremely divided along
Yes.
party lines. Are you seeing that in North Carolina at all?
Yes.
Fair
Quite
enough.
frankly, yes. And to expand upon that, so North Carolina has open primaries. So if you're an independent voter, you can vote both Republican or Democrat. You just choose one. That is great for independent voters, but for the folks who are in those primaries, it tends to lead itself to the base or the extreme bases of both of those parties. So it just seems like that division just keeps on getting further and further and further with every election that goes on. So it is absolutely becoming extremely polarized.
Have you been seeing that spill into NCOIL a little bit?
No, it's basically leave your logo at the door. When you walk into NCOIL, it is not us versus them or he versus she. It is really truly just a wealth of knowledge to see what's better for the industry and also for consumers. So it's a great balance, and it's got great debate among legislators and legislators, and I just really enjoy the conversation.
So naturally, we've discussed, what you love about NCOIL, why it's a great organization. Do you think there's any new direction you'd like to see it go? Anything that can be improved on?
Well, I'm a big fan, as you guys know, or I've been talking about, but I do think that mentoring new legislators or legislators to the group, or recruiting those like flagship legislators in each state and bringing them on would be really helpful to get more people in. So it's great to get legislators to the conference, but once you're there, it's kind of like, do I go to this meeting? Do I not? Where's it at? Who's this? I think some more interaction with those new to the group would be very helpful.
Great, definitely. Yeah, we always love seeing new faces at the meeting, so it's good to hear. All right, so we're going to move into our lightning round. These are real hard-hitting questions we got going on here. So can you tell me your favorite all-time movie?
Okay, so I changed it because it's really Dirty Dancing, but I changed it to Independence Day to be more political. So
Fair enough.
I'll give you both.
Okay, favorite all-time book or musical artist?
Okay, Phil Collins. I can't change that one. It's just who I am.
Great answer. All right, favorite all-time movie or TV show?
Okay, it's a more contemporary one, Outlander. I just love that. So
great show.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I'll have to agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
And then last one, 3 dinner party guests, living or dead.
Absolutely. Rachel Maddow, Tucker Carlson, and Walter Cronkite.
Great answers. I'm sure there would be a lively debate going on at that dinner party.
Yes. It would be awesome.
All right. Well, this wraps up this month's NCOIL 101 interview with Senator Vickie Sawyer. Senator Sawyer, thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
And thank you for having me here.